Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Bars. I'm your host, Mark Major. Today I'm going to be talking about the Arturia MicroBrute. And there it is. There's my my wristband in the shot. This is all going to be taking place on an all-new episode today. Hope you can join us. And I'm back. Here I am on the glitch cam, talking to everybody in internet land about some of the coolest stuff you can find out there on the cheap. Today we're going to talk about the MicroBrute. How did I end up with this thing, you might be asking? Well, it's a good question. Let's just say I had an ad on Craigslist for a guitar, and the kid who answered the ad didn't have enough money, but he had some stuff he wanted to trade in addition to cash, and I said, well, how about this MicroBrute on the list? And he said, okay. Ooh la la, here it is. So now it's time for us to go through this thing and talk about it a little bit, and maybe talk about why you might want to get one of these. Why not? I seem to like mine. You probably like it as well. Let's start with the back. Now, one of the first things I got to tell you is that cheap devices do not have an on-off switch anymore. They got rid of them. I don't know what it is. You just plug them in and that's it. So when you find a device with an on-off switch, to me it indicates that it's product of value, that they actually wrote that part into the schematic and it means something to them. And so I look for those little things, and that is a tip-off whether or not this is something worth keeping or not. Other things of note, most keyboards will have a stereo or a pair, a left and right out. This only has but a mono, and I have to approve. There's a MIDI in, not a MIDI out though. There's control voltage in case you want to hook up a pedal and maybe work one of these effects with a pedal and your foot instead of the knob. Headphone jack is on the back, and also it looks like you can plug a device into the input and run it through the filter. Here's something that's kind of cool. There's these pop-out buttons. There's one for the fine tune and there's one for the input volume. And when you're done with them, they pop back in, they recess. That's kind of a handy dandy little feature that tells me that this is kind of a cool piece as well. Let's talk about the main interface though, and how easy this thing is to use. A lot of people get these, they're probably confused right out of the gate how you make this thing work. Well, really 4 sections. First section is sounds, second section is a filter, third section is just the attack and release. This fourth section is the LFO, meaning the mod wheel, and all the stuff you can do with it. And if you're not going to use all the stuff you can do with it, just skip that section. Just go with the sounds, the filter, and attack and release. So the way you get your sounds is there's 4 to choose from, and each one has a volume knob. And I'll go through each one. Now above each of the sound knobs is some type of a variable for that sound. Something that it can do, that only it can do, and basically determine how much of it. So a great example would be like the first one called overtone. Adds kind of like a, sort of like a flangey effect to it. And the next one is the saw wave. Just kind of does that little thing. Not much. Let's see what the square wave does. Also has kind of a cool filter effect. Now the triangle is real muted sounding, but it has this effect above it called the metalizer, and adds some kind of a weird, you know, it's like a distortion, but it's makes it sound like a cool guitar or something. Cool effect. Usable? Sure, everything's usable. Now the next section is the filter section, and that's pretty easy. Most people can figure that out. It's basically you get kind of a, let's take this sound. You get a filter going. Resonate it, etc. Not that difficult to figure out. It's the kind of thing that, like, if you're using some type of an arpeggiator, or you're playing some kind of a run and you sweep the cutoff, you get kind of a cool psychedelic effect. Knob tweaking. There's also a high pass, band pass, and I had it on the low pass. That's what you're really going to keep it on most of the time. The other ones is just different bands of frequency to pick from. Depends what you're playing. Now there's another really cool thing that they've added called the brute factor. And what the brute factor is something like the product that Digitech, or excuse me, DoD used to make called the Buzz Box. It was this guitar effects that added like a low octave with some type of a fuzz or overdrive to it. And let's see if I can demonstrate this. It's got this one spot where you hear the sound and then it just comes in, and then it really just massacres it. Now, if you go and look at my octaves, you can see I'm in the very center of the octave range, and here it's just like playing this like low Atari sound. So that's pretty incredible little effect that they just threw in there called the brute factor. I have to say that the name brute factor is kind of dumb, but you know, they're pushing their brand, and that's their thing. Fine, okay, I'm not gonna take away from them. So that's basically the little filter sections. You know, you just basically tweak it until you get something you like. The other little section here that you need to know is simply the attack. If you want it to fade in or just come in instantly, and then do you want it to linger for a while, or do you want to just go away? I want to talk about this section next with the little patches, and to understand that, right, I'm going to have to talk about the LFO section. The LFO is basically your mod wheel, right, and you can set it to either do this when you turn it on, and you can adjust how fast, how much of that. All right, so you can also use it in place of the cutoff. So that's with the knob, and that's with the mod wheel. And so you can take this LFO and you can patch it to either the pitch, which is the default. So it should, let's see here. So that's like jamming the pitch up, or you can patch it so it's the filter. You can patch it to the square wave. You can patch it into the saw wave, of course. You can patch it into the metalizer. Who doesn't love the metalizer? Yeah. It's pretty juicy. Patch it into the sub if you want. See what that sounds like. So if you're looking to make some of your sounds just that much more weirder, you can always patch the LFO directly into the sound. So the last part I'm going to talk about is the sequencer. Basically, it comes with this set of patterns, 1 through 8, pre-programmed presets. You, of course, can make your own. It has a record function. You can also get software that will talk to this through the USB, and you can make patterns online and save them, drag them over. But I'm going to just kind of show you sort of an example of what it sounds like, how it works. You basically put it onto play, and let's see here, we'll find a sound. Everybody loves saw wave. While it's playing, of course, you know, you can tweak the filters and you can run the LFO and, you know, make it all crazy. Grab another sound here, something different. Most important thing, obviously, is the sounds. Does it sound good? And I say yes, it sounds great. It evokes, in my mind, all that early 70s and 80s synthesizer sounds, including Atari 2600s and chiptone type music. And I have to say, it gets a thumbs up in that department. It does not disappoint. Also, it has a very easy learning curve. It's also what you see is what you get. So wherever the knobs are, that's it. You don't turn it on and it's on a different, you know, and despite what the knobs say, it plays something else. You know, this is it. You set it, you forget it. Also probably want to take pictures with your camera if you get some patches or sounds that you particularly like and you think you're going to forget them or you want to go to them as a go-to. Also, I'd like to say it's got a lot of features on. It's very feature rich. It's got this very cool little patch system over here. It has the cool sequencer 1 through 8 and the speed that you can select for it. It also has a variety of CV outs and ins on the back, which makes it kind of exciting if you're maybe want to bring in some sample and hold sounds through another device, or if you want to, you know, foot pedal, expression pedal, or something like that to control some of the knobs. Let's talk about some of the cons now. So, small keys, right? Some people just not happy with the small keys. If you're a guy who doesn't really play keyboards and you just kind of is there to like push buttons and tweak knobs, this will be fine. Anyone else who's like an actual keyboard player will be kind of disenfranchised probably with the small keys. That's just part of it though. I think this piece was really intended to augment a guy's bigger rig, like if you've got, you know, some of these Tritons or motif keyboards with all the different sounds on them, and then you want like a dedicated box above it just to play some bass lines or play a lead on, and something you can go to and quickly get a cool sound out of. This might be a piece for those guys. Also, it is monophonic. You can't play chords on it. That's what a lot of analog cool synthesizers are anyways. That means you're in the club. However, some people might want to do more music production where they want to add chords and things like that. And if they only have the budget for one keyboard, is it going to be something that's monophonic? Probably not. Also, it only has really these 4 sounds to pick from. If you get something like the MicroKorg, I know you just go through the dial for days and just keeps coming up with more and more sounds. A lot of those sounds can be made with these 4 sounds, but at the end of the day, they just give you these 4 tones and some variables and kind of send you on your way. So you're going to have to weigh that in. But if you're looking for something that sounds like a really authentic, genuine, really fat, lush, multi-engine analog synthesizer, especially for doing production work, if you're doing stuff with like hip hop or dance music and you want to put something down, this is your dog. This is a great piece. This is a score. Probably try to find them around the $200 range, plus or minus, based upon condition. Also, it would be cool if there was a version that came out that had wooden sides. Maybe. I think that would be cool, and maybe full-size keys, if that's a thing. Maybe at that point it's no longer the MicroBrute. Maybe that's just a Brute, and I need to accept that. So, with that, I don't know. I guess I'll go with a lot of my other reviews and say that it's worth a 10, in my opinion. With that, I hope you join me on the next one. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, give it a thumbs down. I don't care. As long as people are giving it thumbs, everyone's okay. See you next time.